Lightroom Classic and Lightroom have just received some big updates. It's the April 2026 update. Let's dig into the new features right now. So normally I would start in Lightroom Classic because I know that's the majority of what you are using. Let me know in the comments though if you're using Lightroom Classic or Lightroom Desktop. This Lightroom Desktop here is part of the ecosystem that syncs with the iPad, phone, etc. But just because I don't want to bury the lead, I'm going to start today inside of a Lightroom and then we'll move to Classic in a moment. And the reason for that is because the biggest new feature is this natural language search, which is just amazing. So say, for example, I want to look at things like boats. But let's do boats at sunset. And let's do them at the coast. And look at this. And if you look at this, now it's using natural language to search. And I don't have this metadata in these photos. It literally is finding these using AI. Let's try something else. Neon signs. Well, let's just do neon. And here we go. We've got all these neon signs from the Boneyard in Vegas, but also picking up the cyberpunk lighting that I did, as well as neon signs out on the street. And here's a group of us lit in kind of a neon lighting. And for those photographers who don't like AI, here's maybe a practical use for it. Let's quickly look at two more features in Lightroom and then we'll jump into Classic. The second one, and we've had this in Classic for a while, if we right click and choose Edit in Photoshop, we can go to the Photoshop settings. So now we've got some settings that we're familiar with in Lightroom Classic are here in Lightroom, where we can change the file format, we can change the color space for regular SDR as well as HDR, and also things like bit depth and resolution. The next I want to show you is quite useful. So we're going to just double click on this photo and we're going to go into crop. Now, if we decide we want to reposition our crop, yes, we can do that. We've always been able to do that. But now we can zoom in while we're in a crop. And notice we're repositioning within the crop window, but if I hold down the space bar, we can actually pan as well as zoom while we're in a crop. By the way, I'm just Option mouse wheel to zoom in. Hold that space bar to pan it all the way across. If you don't hold the space bar, you're just repositioning within the crop window. All right, let's jump into Lightroom Classic. And when we're in Lightroom Classic, we've got some things that have been moved to the background, which are really nice. So here I'm using one of the smart masks, which is doing hair. And say I want to sync it to some other photos. We can just go under here and we just choose Sync Settings. Let's just check None. And we're just going to apply what we're doing in the mask. And then click Synchronize. Notice now it's synchronizing in the taskbar in the background so we can continue to work while this process is going on. And you can see it just shows which ones are going. And so this will also work with some of our other tools such as the AI denoise. And so this photo was shot at a very high ISO and we can see it's got a ton of noise on it. But if we go down to the detail slider here, this is where we do things like denoise, raw details, and super resolution. We can continue to work while those adjustments are happening in the background. And this will work for denoise, raw detail, and super resolution. And I've done tutorials on all these features so you can go deeper into that if you want. The other change in Lightroom Classic specifically is performance. And let me just read what Adobe said. This update continues to improve performance for key workflows, including improvements to interactive slider performance for global and local edits, better memory utilization for full screen window, cloud sync download speed. All right, let's take a look at some features that are in both Lightroom Classic and Lightroom Desktop. And one of this is updated and assisted culling. Here's one of my shoots. And if we go under the assisted culling here, you might be familiar with some different things. But the update here is mainly to do with focus. So subject focus, it's taking into account a shallow depth of field. And if we want, we can change the amount of this setting. So that means if we move it to the left, it's going to be more forgiving to the point of not really flagging anything. And if we go to the right, we can be more specific. So some of these ones are starting to be flagged, like this one here. Yeah, that is out of focus. And then there's other things like exposure issues here. So here, for example, it looks like my flash didn't fire. And if we go to default, good. And we go to light, it's still flagging it. Okay, that's good. Another important new feature is when we go to edit in Photoshop, we can now support PSB files, which is Photoshop Big. And if you've ever worked with very large files like I do sometimes, this is a really welcome addition. And another new addition in both, if we go to the develop module, is we've got some new presets. So Adobe has added some film-inspired presets. And so if we look at the presets, we're going to see we've got some film-inspired presets here. And as we can kind of just see how these are going to affect it. Oh, these are quite cool looking. Okay, so this gives us kind of a cool look. And the nice thing about all the presets, of course, is that we can choose the amount that we want to apply. And of course, we can change any of the other settings. And Lightroom Classic and Desktop now support the new Sony compressed RAW format. And then there's one other feature I want to show you, which is on both of these, and that's if you want to work with mood boards. So maybe I've got a few photos here. If we right click and then we choose Generate using Firefly, we can start a mood board. Let me zoom out. And then we could start working with mood boards. Now, of course, because this is in Firefly, you can generate, you can do a lot of AI work with it. But if you don't want to work with AI at all, you can still use this as a mood board. And as you zoom out, as you can see, you can really start to do a lot of things with it. It's just a fun little canvas that you can use to experiment and just kind of play around with. And this will be at firefly.adobe.com. And if you want to know more new features, check out my video right here. And let me know in the comments underneath what's your favorite new feature that's been added to Lightroom. And also let me know, are you using Lightroom Desktop or Lightroom Classic? Let me know in the comments underneath. And if you're new, welcome to the cafe. Hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications so you don't miss any of my weekly tutorials. And until next time, I'll see you at the cafe.